Hi there, welcome to Lydia's Books. I'm Lydia, and today I want to talk about the Reading and Rumps wrap-up, my weekly reads, and of course the monthly stats. So this is a little pile of the stuff that I had read for Reading and Rumps. It turns out I read a lot of books this month, and this was probably the biggest month this year so far. And, you know, the next month is already in full swing. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight this beautiful copy of The Woods Are Dark. This is a French version of The Woods Are Dark, put out by Gore, and I picked this up from L'Entresor. They have a YouTube channel. She's the coolest person on the planet, Madame Lamour, and a Etsy store, which is taking a break right now, but keep your eyes peeled for when and if they reopen, because beautiful stuff. But I neglected to mention my favorite Richard Laymon book that I have on my shelves, this French version of The Woods Are Dark. I know I'd mentioned that book before, but hey. So wrapping up the last month, I read Endless Night, and there is a review up at typicalbooks.ca, as well as Among the Missing, which I absolutely loved. I read Cuts by Richard Laymon and Darkness Tell Us. Now, Darkness Tell Us and Cuts don't have reviews up yet. This is that beautiful hardcover, which I absolutely loved. And Darkness Tell Us was the one book that it seemed everybody was reading. Like, I don't know why this was so popular. I guessed that it's because it has a Ouija board on the cover. Maybe it's the most approachable Richard Laymon, and it's available a lot of places, so people have picked it up at thrift shops, and it seems to be in everyone's collection because no one seemed to have trouble getting a hold of Darkness Tell Us, and everyone had a lot of fun with it. It is, as pointed out by the composer next door, very rumpy. There are a lot of rumps. Alex, I believe, counted them, the bookkeepers, and something like 30 some rumps. A lot of rumps. And it was also pointed out he is an equal opportunity rumpist. So it's men's rumps, women's rumps. People just land on their rumps. It's not always the male gaze kind of rump, right? But yeah, this is a really cool story. The end is kind of abrupt and a little bit wacky and a little bit like, is it like a Shaggy Dog story or an O. Henry? I forget the name of the type of story that it could have not happened, right? Like, very strange, but yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. I have been trying to remember a particular camping story. It must be Tread Softly, one of his first novels, and one I don't have on my shelves in its original form. I have a retelling. Maybe it's The Lake. I think it's The Lake is what it was renamed as. I'll be reading that eventually this summer because I really want to find out. There was a particular Richard Laymon camping story that I absolutely loved. And it was the book that made me fall in love with Richard Laymon due to a friend who owned a whole bunch of them. And she lent me like one, and then she lent me 10. Go figure. But yeah, Darkness Tell Us is really fun. It is pretty good entry-level Laymon, I think, in that it doesn't pull any punches. It's very gory. It's very sexist. It's very raunchy. It's very rumpy, very rompy. So if you're looking for a starter Laymon, I don't think you can go wrong with Darkness Tell Us. I like that his love of literature and the English language shines through because it's very punny. It gets a little tiresome at times. If you like that punny character, though, you will probably like Night in the Lonesome October, where it features a super gay, wonderful person with a very cool backstory, a very dark backstory that is the punniest guy. He would have fit in with this crowd for sure. Now, I had mentioned a small crossover of the Krulls in Endless Night and The Woods Are Dark. I have the actual copy here. It's not that it is the Krulls. The Krull family in The Woods Are Dark are these cannibalistic wood dwellers that chase down our heroes and heroines and kind of take another one of them under their wing because somebody sort of sees their way of life of being covered in blood and animal skins, hunting down humans as a fun thing to do. This takes that to another level where it's very meta. This guy has an idea spawned from some old horror novel, this book here, about the Krull family, and he calls a group of his friends, kind of in a tongue-in-cheek way, the Killer Krulls. And yeah, insanity ensues. They like to cover themselves in skins and blood as well. So it is meta, very a meta mention of his own novel and characters he created as some old horror novel in this book. So it's not a crossover. It's not a sequel, but it is a mention of the Krulls in a way. I'll be talking a little bit more about Richard Laymon in a subsequent video. I've decided I want to talk about my extreme horror collection to see where it stands and how far I need to go in the extreme horror lit starter pack as well. So that'll be my next video. All in all, I had super fun with Readathon. I don't really do readathons, so reading in Rumps was super fun. Thank you to Alex and Regina and Slime and Slashers and DL Tillery, everyone else who participated, of course, Michael's Dark Reads and Spooky Noodles, a lot of other people. I'm trying to remember who all participated. Maris participated. A lot of other people read The Composer Next Door, Richard Laymon books, because, I don't know, it's just like this weird, fun summer thing to do, to read the most sick, rompy, raunchy, B-grade author ever to have existed in horror, right? So yeah, I had a lot of fun. I don't know if I'm going to do another readathon. I'll keep my eyes peeled for another Laymon readathon next year, but I am doing a small sort of readathon. RGsDevilship is doing in August, all in August, and I've got 2 authors to choose from. Either Stephen King, which is what Raya's doing as well, interestingly. I have a few Stephen King books I've not read, so I can read 3 or 4 of those in a month, call it a readathon, or some unread VC Andrews in my VC Andrews collection. So I'm going to do a poll, probably on Patreon, about who I should read in August. I'll quickly dip into some statistics here because my reading this month has been really interesting, because I really thought that the readathon would supplant my regular reading, but it just contributed to it. I did read a lot of books, and I've also been reading audiobooks, right? So it's interesting. I'm using the page count from the print novel because it is the same thing. And I used to have a problem where my mind would drift during audiobooks, but I use them now when I'm a little more focused on my commute and while I'm walking. So I do like that quite a lot. I didn't use them when I was driving, interestingly. I just kept to podcasts, and I don't listen to audiobooks every day. It's only specific days, because if I tune into the same thing for like a 9-hour stretch, I don't think I could do that. So I break it up with podcasts, but it has been really working for me. Now, according to the numbers in the chart, this is the biggest month that I've had reading so far. 22% of my reading this year took place in the month of June. I'm already ahead in July, and it's rivaling the smallest month at 4.9%. So like, that's crazy to me. In March, I didn't read a lot of books for whatever reason. We take vacations and such in March sometimes. March is just a fun month too for me. So I just like springtime, I guess. So maybe I'm reveling in being able to go outside again. But yeah, so it's been interesting. I think that July will be pretty big as well. I'm looking forward to August, where I think I want to let the all in August readathon supplant my reading as opposed to supplement it. So I will only be reading the one author in August. I'll see how that goes. But yeah, really busy month so far. I've read 9 books. And yeah, that's a lot of pages. That's almost 2,500 pages. That's a lot of reading. Or it's one great big thick tome if you read those gigantic Kleenex boxes worth of books. So that's over 10,000 pages for the year so far. That's cool. I've never counted pages before, so all of this is really new to me. The fact that I've acquired 33 books is crazy. I don't feel like I've bought that many books. Although I did buy this little stack I'll talk about in a minute of my mergers and acquisitions, but it doesn't feel like I bought that many books. 3 rereads, which is good. I don't plan on rereading books often because I have an okay memory. There's some books I read regularly every year that'll probably show up. It's interesting to track them, that it's not October or December, and I'm already rereading some books. The advanced reader copies, I have been planning on doing 1 arc per month, which is neat because most of them are e-arcs. I've also started for the first time an audiobook as an arc, and I'm very excited about that. It's going really well too because I really like the story, and that's The Girl in the Creek by Wendy and Wagner. Again, this continues. The large press count baffles me. I'm surprised I read this many big 5 books, but they have also kind of like amalgamated over the years, and they definitely do put out a lot of the old trade paperbacks for my collections and things like that. So it stands to reason, I guess, but I still wish and thought I read more small press books. And you can see over the year, it's trade paperbacks or mass market paperbacks rivaling e-arcs, because I picked up that many of them so far this year. But that'll only grow by a certain amount because there's only 12 months in the year. I'm already into the 7th month of ARC reading. I've got a few printed ARCs actually, and an e-arc that I'm not really counting because it's a friend, which we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, just to wrap this up, I do adjust my 5-star reads. There was a book in particular, let's say it was North American Lake Monsters, that I had given 5 stars, but then I was like, you know what, it's really only worth 4.5, maybe 4. So I have been adjusting my star ratings. I don't see any real shame in that, but the star ratings don't mean too much to me because I don't really give star ratings publicly. This is just for my own purposes, and I'm also experimenting still with these statistics. And genres read, of course, horror. This is why I've arranged it this way, to sort of see the main genre, which is horror, and all the subgenres abound. So yeah, like Requiem that I read this month was a sci-fi horror. It's still a horror novel by a horror writer, but it is a sci-fi book. So what are those books, those 9 books, you might ask? Cold Chills I finished reading. Among the Missing for Reading in Rumps. No End to House was an arc that I read, and that was okay. The first half was much better than the second, which is the same thing for the Patron Picks poll too. I really, really love the beginning of Requiem, which I also read this month by John Polisano. No End House was by Jeremy Bates. Endless Night, Richard Laymon. Carrie Mora, Thomas Harris. That was a off-the-cuff pick, and I really, really enjoyed that. Cuts by Richard Laymon as well for the Readathon. Survive the Night by Riley Sager, my 2nd audiobook ever, if you don't count Malcolm Gladwell and Noam Chomsky books. Non-fiction stuff I don't really count because it feels like a podcast or a radio program. But yeah, my 2nd ever audiobook, and I borrowed it from the library, which was nuts. I really liked that book. Darkness Tell Us for the Readathon. Requiem by John Polisano, as mentioned. Girl in the Creek, which I started reading. These are the July books. And Full Brutal by Christopher Triana, which I'll talk about in my next video. But yeah, so that's like 9 awesome books. That was a big month for me, really, but it didn't feel too taxing. I think that that's a good stride. If I could keep that up, that's a lot of books. I don't think I will. So there's a few books coming out right now that are on my reading list. Toadhead by Andrew Lyall, fellow booktuber, fellow author. We've been co-published in Local Haunts, which was a BookTube anthology put out by Regina St. Clair of Regina's Haunted Library. And Grumpy Andrew's Horror House is Andrew's channel, if you're interested. His writing is great. I absolutely like his work. So Toadhead, very green cover, skulls, toads. I don't know what to expect, but I have an e-arc, so I'm very excited. I mostly count that as a gracious gift more than an e-arc. I'm going to leave a review, of course. So I just really urge everyone to keep their eyes peeled. The end of the month, there will be Toadhead available for purchase by author Andrew Lyall. Another book coming out at the end of the month is The Knave of Graves by S.J. Shank, and this is a Canadian author who I've met at a convention twice now. Really cool guy, and he also wrote Mountain Fast, which I meant to get to. So I've got the ebook. I bought the ebook, and it just sat there. I don't know why. So I'm going to read that this month as well while waiting for Knave of Graves. It's another cover with skulls on it. It's a skull collection, it looks like. Very brown, where Toadhead's very green. So we got some very earthy colors going on here in July. So very excited to get to these 2 books. And I also received an actual printed arc. Tales Told Around a Strange Fire by Bud Templin. Thank you, Bud, for sending this along. I do really love printed advanced reader copies. That's my favorite thing. So yes, this is coming out in August, the beginning of August, I believe the first week of August. It's a sci-fi horror, and it's not a collection of short stories. It is one story, but it's friends telling stories around a campfire. So I believe it will end up with like little bits of stories in amongst it. And I really love that cover. It's got this silhouette of a dog over the campfire flames that are quite stylized and a rocket ship in the air. So yeah, just gorgeous. Thanks again. But actually I was able to send that to my post office box. I don't use it very often because I don't receive a lot of ARCs, but if you're interested in sending a printed advanced reading copy of something you have coming out, let me know. You can get a hold of me at typicalbooks.com. There's a drop down for contact, and there's a contact form in there. And I believe it is in the about section of this show as well. Now, as mentioned previously, I did visit my hometown place, and I did not expect to walk out of there with books wrapped in plastic, and you know what that means. It's going to be something fun. But first off, I didn't expect to find this there either. The Horned God, Weird Tales of the Great God Pan, edited by Michael Wheatley. I'd had this on my eye. I guess it came out 2 or 3 years ago. I was very pleased to see it there at a very good price, and it's mint. It looks hardly read at all. So yeah, very excited. I'll have to read the original Great God Pan story by Arthur Machen first, and then dig back into these weird stories. And speaking of weird, I've got what I really wanted with my first 3 copies of Necroscope. I've got Necroscope 4 and 5, Dead Spawn and Dead Speak. They were actually not bad prices, $10 each, so I like that. The fact that they are wrapped carefully in plastic and hardly cracked spines, they're gorgeous. They really, really are very, very well kept, beautiful copies. I have to read all of Necroscope, and I want the first 3 books in these versions as well. So I'm going to be on the hunt. I bet you they're not cheap. I bet I won't be this lucky. So I'll keep looking. In the meantime, I do have those really cool Tor reprints. All in all, it was a super busy reading month and week with my 3rd audiobook ever in Girl in the Creek that I started. Reading the entire book of Survive the Night by Riley Sager in audiobook format. That was so neat. Oh yeah, I did pick up a library book as well. It's upstairs and it has a big ugly Interlibrary Alone band across it. I read half of this book so far because some of the essays I'm going to read before we do these movies on the podcast. But right now, Wes and I on Splatter Pictures Dead Air podcast have talked about Faculty, which I read the article in this book on that. And we just did I Know What You Did Last Summer, so I read that one, and I read a few of the other ones of movies that we're not going to be covering, and portions of the Scream essay. But this is the 90s teen horror cycle by Alexandra West. That'll probably be mentioned in the next video as well, because I'm not done reading the whole thing. So a super duper busy week reading that, of course, and Survive the Night by Riley Sager, Darkness Tell Us, finishing reading that, Requiem by John Polisano, and I started reading Girl in the Creek. I still feel like there's something else in there that I read. Anyhow, thank you so much for watching. If any of these books are on your list or you track your reading in a different way, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and have an ooky, spooky day.